When you put an email campaign together on Pardot, there are a number of things that you need to do, and there's a sort of order of play. Makes it easier, and it's not necessarily completely intuitive. So I'm going to use this little video to try and explain the order with which you need to do things. So keep it simple. What we're going to do is we're going to create a form. We're going to create a landing page, and we're going to create an email template which will reference the landing page with a form on it. The reason I do it in this order is because you actually need the landing page before you've got the link to put in the email, and you also need the form to go on the landing page if you want to capture more information from the landing page. Now, it's not always super critical to have a form on the landing page, but if we do it with the form first, it's slightly more complicated, so the non-form version is a little bit more straightforward. So when you put together your landing page, you need to decide which fields you want on your form, and you also need to decide whether you've got any completion actions, which I'll explain a little bit about when I get to them, that are driven by that form. And completion actions include things like sending out a follow-up email, adding them to another list, or even sending a notification to a specific user, either a Pardot user or a Salesforce user. So that's the kind of the way that this is going to go. So basically, form, then landing page, then email template. And the other thing we'll also do when we're doing the landing page, we'll look at how you would upload the content that you would want to use on your landing page, and some stuff around how to actually go through the process of creating your landing page. So the starting point for this is to go to marketing and then go to forms. And as a general rule, with pretty much everything in Pardot now, because we've already got quite a lot of templates, quite a lot of forms set up, there's not very often a requirement to set a form up from scratch. So you can normally copy an existing form and make changes to that form as a starting point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, rather than clicking add form from the form page, what you would generally do is you would click an existing form, and then you would go up here and you would do copy. I'm not going to do copy in this because this is a copied form anyway. So I'm just going to, so when you've done the copy, then you would edit the form that you've copied. So I'm going to edit this form now, and I'm going to make changes. So this is the form I've already copied. So I can leave it as an example form. I'm not going to change the name. You'd want to change the name to something new. You can put tags against the form if you want to associate it with a particular set of actions. You don't really need to put tags. That's more to do with finding stuff on the system. The tags you put on the form at this point don't tag any of the people who actually fill the form in, so don't worry about that. You then want to file it in a particular folder. I'm just going to file this one in uncategorized for the time being, and I'm also going to choose a new campaign. You may need to set up a new campaign, but you might already have done that when you've pushed the data across from Salesforce. So I'm going to pick. Let me just pick this as the. I'm just going to assume this is a VAR related thing. I hit. Go to the next one, click on next, click the next. You can decide which field you want to add. Generally speaking, this is a pretty standard set: first name, last name, company, email, phone, country. There are sometimes occasions where you might want to add other stuff as well, but basically those are the basic ones you would normally use. Then we hit the next button, and the one thing that's of use here that you might want to change is this is the text that will appear on the submit button on the form, right? So in this case, we've called it contact me. You could just call it submit, or you can put whatever word you like in there. So if it's a contact me button, if it's a submit button, or for example, it may be that you're registering people for an event, so you might want to put it register. So I'm going to change that to register, and I'm going to hit next. And then the next one is the completion actions. So there's two things in here. In completion actions, you've got the starting point is the thank you content that you have at the top of the page. Once someone submits the form, the page refreshes, and this is the content that they'll see. Now, in this case, I've created some buttons. You can basically you can create whatever you like here, really. So, for example, in this case, I've actually played around with this and done some HTML in here. But let's just say, for argument's sake, we wanted to add a download link. So one of the things we could do here is we could put in download intro or something like that. Then what you do is you could just highlight it, hit the link, and then you'd look for files, and then you'd find the relevant file. So normally you're going to be looking for a download. You're normally going to be looking for a PDF. So I'm just going to pull that PDF. Yeah, OK. So that would then mean that when they get to this page, that link would take them to the PDF that you've just put there. Now, what I've done is I've been a bit flash with this, and I've actually done a little bit of HTML editing on this particular form to actually give you this sort of this standardized color scheme. And you can cheat with this by, if you look at this little tag here, this shows you everything. This should show you, he said, famous last words. Come on, where is it? Oh, there you go. We'll show you all the actual HTML, and you can see that the simple things here are, you can see that this is the link I just added, so that's a simple link. You can see these three here are actually the buttons I've created, and you can see that where the link is. Now the thing is, if you want to use this approach, you've basically got to put the actual reference in. You can't use the file thing, which is a little bit more difficult. So you can see I've created the references here directly to these particular pieces. So for example, that link takes you directly to the Vislink website, because you can see that there's no Vislink, there's no www.to. That's going to it's going to the UltraCoder page. The other thing you'll also see is, you'll notice this is actually the color code for that sort of turquoisey color. You'll notice it here as well. So that's a standard code. So that basically puts that background, that sort of turquoisey background on the button. If you want to use this, probably the best thing to do would be to actually just copy one of the existing forms and have a play around. But you do need to get the reference here directly. You can't use the link reference that I just showed you before. See, for example, if I wanted to, I could get that link and I could copy it here. So let me just let me copy that. I copy that, and then I could basically replace that. I could put it in there, and that would take me to that tag bulletin. Anyway, there you go. I'm not going to. So then we'll flick back to there. So that means that link, you can't actually see that link until it goes onto the form, but you can preview. I think you can preview the form, so you can see how it looks. Your completion actions, you've got a whole bunch of different options here. I've added this. You can see quite a lot that I've added here. So in this case, I've added 2 tags: UltraCoder request. In this particular case, we were doing something around chief finance officers. You can adjust their Pardot score up or down. You can actually change the actual the source campaign. You can notify specific users, and then you can also send an autoresponder email, and we've already created an email to do that. So that's how we do that, and I've added me again. And you can also add them to another list. So you can see it's notifying a bunch of people, but it's also creating an autoresponder email, or it's firing an autoresponder email, and it's also adding them to a particular list. So those are the kinds of things you can do. Just to give you an example. I'll show you what the other options are, so you can see that some of them it's run off the bottom of the page, unfortunately. But you've got add to list, add to Salesforce campaign, create a Salesforce task. So you can create a task for a particular individual. So you could say you could actually pick an individual that you wanted to assign this to. So if you wanted to assign something to Connor or to me, you can actually assign it. You can create a new task. Please follow up, and you can set a priority as high and all this sort of stuff, and you can do it immediately. You can set the days from today, so you can set days from when it happened, and you can set a reminder, and then you can type whatever you want in there. So this is in just get on with it. So this will actually create a task in Salesforce on the contact or lead record that's associated with this prospect. Okay, so that's just an example. but you can see the other examples in there, and if you go have a look, if you use an existing form, you can see the sorts of things we've done in the past anyway. So that's the easiest way to actually get to grips with that. Okay, hit next, and then we can hit confirm and save, and then we're done. So that's that form created, and you can actually have a look if you click the link. I'm going to open it in a new window. You can see what the form would look like. Now in this case, because I've already been cookied, it's not actually showing me very much at all. But you can see I've changed register to, I changed that thing to register. So if I hit register, it should come back with a thank you text. So there you go. So it's come back with a thank you text, and you can now see that that link is the same actually as this link. So if I click this link, it's actually downloaded that PDF. So that's how that hangs together. But of course, it doesn't appear like that because it appears actually on the actual landing page. But it just gives you an example of how it looks. Okay, so that's the first part. Now the second part is then to go have a look at landing pages. So go take a landing page. Now again, this is where I would, generally speaking, always use something that's already there. So if I let me just take this one as an example. So I'm going to pick up the landing page. I'm going to go and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to call it, again, I'll just call this example landing page because we're doing training. I'm going to put it in the uncategorized section, and I'm going to change the campaign in this case to var, just for argument's sake. So that's the copy of the landing page. You've got to make sure you hit copy landing page, otherwise it doesn't actually exist. Then once you've copied it, you edit it, right? So we edit the landing page, and we'll start at the beginning. We can call this, we can change this, we can put the title. Now this is important because this is the title that appears in the actual, at the top here in your browser. So it is actually, you should change the landing page title. So this is an example landing page. A lot of the time people don't actually see this because the tabs don't show it, but sometimes they do. So it's definitely worth having it there. So there you go. If you look at, so if you just see there you go. You can see the title at the top there that appears on that landing page. So that's actually a landing page you can see there, and you say, so that looking forward to seeing you at tab is the sort of thing that appears. So it's definitely worth putting this in, and then you could put a description against it. This, I don't think this actually appears. This is just for our own internal purposes. So it's just easier for people to work out what this page is about. The other thing that's also a good thing to do is to create a so-called vanity URL. So if you don't create a vanity URL, it'll create a long, meaningless URL for the form. And so this is actually so I'm just going to call this example 1, and I'm just going to then hit next. So it's good practice to give it a name, right? So we can create a new form. We'll use an existing form, and what we'll do is we'll choose the form that I just played around with. So we'll choose the example form, hit create, go to the next step, and then because we're using an existing layout, it will choose the layout that we've already got. So we don't need to worry about this. We can click with this, because if we clicked another layout, it would basically mean that we'd have to recreate this thing from scratch. Yeah, okay. So if this happens to you and this stuff rolls off one side, just click this thing here and it gives you a bit more screen real estate to play with. So you can see what happens. It sort of rolls it in from the side. I don't know why that happens. It's not very good, to be honest. So here's a typical landing page. So here's the form. This is what the form actually looks like on the page. You can see this is all set up on this kind of this background, and it sort of looks okay because of the format we have here. We've got the register button as we expect. In this case, right. So what you can do with a landing page is you can link to specific things. Now in this case we're actually linking to a video. Now if you wanted to add a video to a landing page, you need to have the video set up ready to go. in Vimeo in order to include it. So I'm just going to show you how that would work. So I'm just going to delete the one that's already there. So the existing video is there. I'm going to delete the existing video, and I'm going to show you how you would add a new video. You'd need to have the Vimeo code, so you can get that from the Vimeo webpage, and Matt can help you with that. So, for example, I've got Vimeo, the Vislink Vimeo page here. Let's just say we wanted to include this video on this page. So you go to the video, you click on the share, and then you would click on show options, and you want to, it says at the bottom, remove the text link. And then basically what you would do is you would copy this, and you can keep the standard dimensions. You can actually change these, but you keep the standard dimensions, copy that, flick back to your Pardot landing page, get your video, and then you just basically paste in your Vimeo and hit insert, and then you can move that to wherever you want it to be. So there's your that's how you'd insert a video. Right. If you wanted to insert an image, you click on the click on outside there, and if we click image, it'll give us its grey box. I'm just going to move it out of the way, so down here a little bit. Gives us this grey box, and then what you do is you double click on the grey box, and then you pick the image that you want to add, and basically you can pick any image that you've already uploaded to Pardot. So I'm just going to put an image in here, and then I'm going to quickly show you. If you don't already have the image on Pardot, so there's an image, you can see it's at the front there. Generally speaking, on a page like this, you would either have a video or an image. So I'll actually remove that video. But here's an image that we had from before. Let's just say you don't have your image already uploaded. What do you do? So actually, it's pretty straightforward. All you've got to do is you click on this. So you basically want this to be open in a new tab. So you go to marketing, you go to content, and you right click, open it in a new tab. So you'd have it open in a new tab. You go to files, and if you had an image file that you wanted to upload, I've got some screen grabs here, so I can just grab a screen grab and I can put it in here, and it will upload it. And then once it's uploaded, you can edit it and you can change the name of it. So for example, click edit file, and we can change the name of it, and I'm just call it screen grab. Give it a short name, and we could tag it. We could put it in wherever. I'm leaving it in uncategorized. You could put a tag on it if you wish, and I'm just going to call it example screenshot. And because I called it screen grab, it should be easy to find. So I hit save. Right, so I've now got that. Actually, you can see it's a screen grab of stuff I've been doing in Pardot. So I'll go back to the landing page. So I'm going to delete the existing picture I put in earlier, and I'm going to add a new one. So it gives you this black thick box again. It's a little bit clunky, I have to say, but that's the way it works. And then I look for what do I call it? Example screenshot. And I hit insert, and that's what I had before. And you can resize this, so you can actually resize it on the fly, so you don't need to stick with the size of the original image. So that means that you don't need the original image at exactly the right size. It's pretty good practice to try and keep it roughly the right size. And generally you'd use sort of 640 or 720 wide images here. You can drag and drop and change the sizes of these things. Thing to bear in mind is that this is, I've just highlighted that, and the form is separate from this picture. So that is an actual shape that's sitting behind the back of the form. So you can see those two things are actually separate. So I can move the form separately from the actual shape. So sometimes you might find that a little frustrating. Then you can also, you can edit, if you edit your text, if you double click on this, it comes up with, you can edit your text in this box. So you can change fonts and sizes and so on. It's an okay text editor. It's not the world's friendliest text editor, You could also actually, you can't edit directly in HTML, which is a little bit annoying, but you can paste stuff from other things. So if you've got plain text, generally speaking, if you're cutting and pasting stuff, I would generally use paste as plain text rather than trying to paste stuff with formats and stuff already embedded. You can change the sizes of fonts and so on, and you can also change the colours. So for example, if I look at this one, you can change the font colour in this case, and I've hit more colours. And in this case, I've used that thing I was talking about before, the colour of the 0099 AD, and that's actually the standard colour of that particular shade of turquoise that gets used on the Vislink website. So I'm just going to say update this, and then update that, so it changes the text, and you can see that the text has changed. If you want to make your, just let me show you one quick thing. If you make something a bit smaller, update, and you want to close up the borders at the bottom, it's a little weird. You have to select this border at the left hand side and drag it up. If you want to change the height of it, you change the height up here. So you select it, and then I'm going to make sure it's selected. Yeah, you see it's changed to 60 now. And similarly with this, you need to drag this. And what you find also is that the text is separate, so make sure you don't leave the text behind. And when you drag it up, the bottom of the page kind of moves upwards. So you've got to be a little aware of that, because it's very easy to use to create more white space than you need. Equally, if you needed to make it longer, you need to drag everything down to lengthen the page. We can hit next, and on the next page, basically that's it, because all of the stuff we did around completion actions is all done on the form, not on the page. Right, confirm and save. Okay, so now you've created your form, you've created your landing page, and you've created the relationship between the form and the landing page. So the next thing to do is to go and do your email template. Either email or email template. I mean, you can do both. If you think you're going to use it again, it's a good idea to use a template. So we go into email templates, pick templates, and again use the same principle as I showed you before. Rather than adding an email template, it's always a good idea to use what let's have a look at all campaigns. This will show us all our email templates. Use something you've already used before. It's always a good ploy. So let's just say, for argument's sake, I'm going to use the tab general invite as my starting point for this, and I'm going to copy it. You notice that copies in a slightly different place. Instead of being on here, it's here. So we're going to call this. I'm going to call this an example email template, just so that we're not creating stuff that creates confusion, or more confusion than usual. Okay, and we'll stick it in on categorized, and I'm going to put it on that same campaign. And I copy the email template, and you've got a similar. So with this, you've got a similar sort of setup. So you need to, once you've got to this point, you then need to edit your email template. And I think actually this is probably the area that's least confusion for people. The things you've got to bear in mind is that you've got a bunch of different places where there's text, and you click on those, and you need to make sure that you change these. So I'm going to change this, and this is an example of a template. You then click into the next bit, and you can basically edit this image. So for example, if I double click on that, it will take us to where the current image is. I'm using the same image twice, but what I'll do is I'm going to pick a bunch. We've got a bunch of things that I've set up as email headers. So if you upload a new one, good practice is to call it email header, so you can see, it's easy enough to see what it is. I'm going to pick this email header because this is one I did last week for the Textport folks. So we'll use that as our email header, and we'll hit OK. So we've now got an email header which goes across the top. And then we can edit the text in here, and we can say, I'm going to say this is an example. I'm not going to change anything else. But what I am going to do is I'm going to actually say click to register. So in fact, I'm going to just type new text in. Click here to register. Whoops, because I can't spell. Right, highlight. I still can't spell, can I? Highlight the text, and then I need to create a link. And what I want to do is I want to link to a landing page. And the landing page I'm going to go to is my example landing page. And then I can hit OK. Now you can do some little tricks here should you wish. You can, for example, if you wanted to make this look a little bit like a button without too much messing around, one of the things you can do is you can make the text white. And to make text white, it's really intuitive, you do this. It's FF. This is hexadecimal. Basically, that's making everything. You've got red, green, blue, and basically you're maximizing red, green, and blue, which creates white. So we'll now, of course, you can't see that now. But what you can then do is you can highlight the background. So we can use, and actually we can use our magic color that we talked about before, which is this 0099 AD, and hit OK. And it looks kind of a bit like a button. It's not quite as nice as a button, but it is a link, and it's pretty easy to do. So that would then link us to our template content, right? So we can then, so we've done that. We make the changes we wanted to make on our HTML bit. One of the things we've got to be sure of is we copy them automatically across. Hit the text type, because you need to basically create. So this, you can see this is changed. It says this is an example. You can edit. I mean, frankly, there are so few people who get emails this way nowadays that it's hardly worth the bother of editing this. But you can edit it so that it looks a little bit nicer. Generally speaking, I don't really bother because virtually everybody receives their emails in not in text format. So this is kind of quite a nice way to do it. Yeah. So I'm not going to bother too much with that. So I'm going to, and the other thing is, if you save draft every now and again, good idea. You can easily test stuff. So you can test how that email looks, and you can also test that the link works by clicking on testing, sending it to your own email address. So I'm going to send that to one of my email addresses, see how it looks. And then when it arrives, you can click on the links to make sure all the links are working nicely. Here's the example email that I was just received. This is how it looks. And if I click on the link, it takes me through to the page and shows me what we just did. And if I hit register, the other thing I've also got is this option of saying if it's not me, I can pretend, if it's come to the wrong person, they can click this and say I'm somebody else. So then if I do that, it gives me a new form to fill in. That's a really useful thing to make sure you've got on all the forms, just in case an email gets forwarded to somebody else. And just to quickly show you, just so that you're aware of where that exists, because that's a neat little trick. I'm just going to go back and show you forms, go back to forms, and then I'll pick the form out. So that example form and edit form. Advanced. So on the Advanced tab, on the look and feel on the Advanced tab, if you include the not you link, basically that means that if it gets forwarded to somebody else, it means that they can click it's not them. So that's really a useful thing to have. So I recommend that you put that. Sorry, I didn't catch that first time through, but there you go. So go back to our landing page. So that's what our landing page looks like. I'm not going to register because I think this is sending things to people. So there you go. So that's the basics of how you pull all that together. The other thing you probably then want to know is, so when you actually get to the point at which you decide you want to you've got to make sure that you publish this. So you publish a template. Right? Once we've tested it, we're happy with it, we publish the template. We know, so when you're creating your email that's going out to your list of people, and I'm assuming that you know how to create your lists, by creating them as maybe a report in Salesforce, and then creating a campaign, and then pushing the campaign across into Pardot and adding them to a list. Maybe I'll quickly go through that process so that you're aware in a minute. But you go to marketing, you go to emails, you go to new list email, you'd fill in the details on this list email, you'd start from a template, then you'd say, I'll just show you how we do it. I'll put example, I'm just going to put example as a tag. Whoops, I'm not going to put anything as a tag, forget it. I'm going to leave it in uncategorized, choose selected. I've got to choose a campaign, so I'll put it under that var campaign as well, just for the argument's sake, because it's easy. Choose selected, then hit save. Then it gives you the option of which template we're going to use. In this case, I'm going to use the example template. Look, I couldn't even spell template. Look, terrible. Apply, and then you change the subject. I didn't change the subject in the template, so in this case, we'd want to change the subject here. The other thing to bear in mind is you can also change the subject in the sending part of this. You can make tweaks to this here if you want, using one template and you just want to make a couple of little tweaks to it. You can do the tweaks here. That's what will actually go into the list, and we can apply any change. No, we don't do that. We've already applied the template. You don't need to do that. Any changes you make sure you do the copy stuff across to the copy stuff across to the text templates as well. You can test the changes you've made. You want to save this page and then carry on. Go to testing. We can send to test lists. We've got a few test lists, marketing test lists, some other oddball test lists as well that you can pick, or you can just put lists of emails against these things here. One other quick thing I didn't actually mention, when you're building the email, you've got this thing called, in the actual text body, click in the text body, and at the moment, so for example, you can see at the bottom of here, we've got this strange thing that looks like with the two percent signs. This is a thing that they call a variable tag. So you can put the name. You can put the name of the user. So if a user if a prospect has been assigned to a particular user, and that's actually generally a Salesforce user, you can basically put in that person's name here. You could also do things, for example, you can even put further information in. So you could put the users. So if we wanted to put the telephone number in, we could put user phone and make sure that, so we put the user phone, and that will pull the details from their from the user's details. So that's quite a useful thing to know. One other quick thing to mention as well. Let's just so we've done the testing. We can do that. Hit save. Let's just show you on sending again. Go to sending. So what happens is you can, when in the sending bit, again, you've got the option of changing your subject line. So you can see I've got example as a subject line. You can actually add, you can have an assigned user. So for example, that's the person who owns the prospect. So if the prospect belongs to Raj or Bob or whoever, then it will be signed. The email would look as if it was coming from Raj or Bob or whoever owns that prospect. Sometimes you don't have. You also always have to have what we call a. You also have to have a general user as well. Hang on a second. Where is it? Assigned user. Let's just remove that. Let's just add that. You want general user, and we'd put. You could put sales team at Vislink or whatever you want, and then you'd put sales, the from email address, Vislink, or support at Vislink, or ultracode at Vislink, or whatever email address you want it to come from, and then you have the reply to address. You can actually, doesn't need to be this, it can be different, but we'll leave it the same. Then you can also create completion actions on the email itself. So if you wanted to, generally speaking, you wouldn't generally do anything when the person opens an email, but you can, for example, pick. We've got a couple of things in here. We've got a couple of links. We've got the Twitter, Facebook. So we're not really interested in those, but we are interested in that particular one. And then we could add a tag. You could say showed interest. You could whatever you want, or you could even send an autoresponder. Actually, you can't see it because it's got, for some reason, it's to run off the bottom of the screen. I want just a second. No, you still can't see it. Sorry about that. But you can actually add an autoresponder email. There are a bunch of things you can do with that. Let's just click that again. And then if you want to remove them, you just hit the little yes, delete completion action, yes, and delete that. Okay, let's just say, there you go. You can send an autoresponder email. And you could then you'd pick a specific autoresponder email that you've already put together, which may include stuff like, for example, I think, let me just find you one as an example, ultra coded downloads. Right, choose selected, and that ultra coded downloads includes some links as well. So that's how you'd set it up. And you can save this at any point. The thing to bear in mind is you can save this setup and it remembers everything, so you don't have to do it all in one go. And then what you want to do is you want to send it to the list you want to send it to. So you look for the list that you created for this particular. So we've got, that's an internal list, but we could send it to that internal list. I'm not going to send it. Okay, and then you'd hit send. If you wanted to, you can also schedule it. Bear in mind that it schedules based upon your particular time zone. So you can see, you choose it based on your time zone. So maybe if you've got, say, a specifically, if you're in the US, then you might want to send it in US time, but it should be currently, you should be okay because you'll be on the time zone. But if you're in the UK and you want to send stuff to the US, then you probably need to think about what time of day you should be sending it. It's generally better to send it during business hours, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. Okay, so I think that's about it in terms of the kind of overall email stuff. Right, so I've just navigated to a campaign that exists on Salesforce. It was one that I think Jamie and Sophie put together. So you've got your list of emails, you've got your list of people that are on your campaign members and so on. You click the add to Pardot list, and just to explain how this works. So you can add to an existing list if you've already got a list you want to add to. And actually these are running off the bottom of the page, so you can't really see them. But there's the full list is here of all the lists that exist on Pardot. Or you can create a new one. And the other thing you can also do is create a new Pardot campaign or add to an existing. Right, now there's some subtlety about this, so just to explain this override existing campaign thing. Very simplistically, the term campaign means two completely different things in Salesforce and in Pardot. In Salesforce, a campaign is basically is like a way of compiling a list of leads or contacts that you're going to instigate some kind of communication with or have some kind of marketing campaign with. And a contact or lead can appear on any number of campaigns at any given time, because essentially you're just including them in that list. So essentially the campaign in Salesforce is more like a list in Pardot, because in Pardot a list you can be on as a contact or as a prospect, as they call it in Pardot. A prospect can be on multiple lists in the same way that a lead or a contact can be on multiple campaigns in Salesforce. But in Pardot, at any given time, a prospect can only be associated with one campaign. So that means that, and so the idea is that's the first touch point that you've had with that particular customer or that particular prospect in Pardot. What it means is that, for example, if you decide that you're going to do a campaign in Salesforce and you want to change the source campaign in Pardot, you can do it here. So you can basically say you can add to an existing Pardot campaign and you can change them. So if say for argument's sake, we decided that anybody that gets in contact with us after tab, we want to make sure that they're always associated with the tab Pardot campaign, then you'd select that and you'd also tick this button, because if you don't tick this button, what it means is that only new prospects that are added will have this campaign associated with them. If you click that button, it means that even if the prospect already exists, they will have their campaign set to a tab in place. I'm not going to go through this process and add to the list because the list already exists in this particular case, but there you go, that's how it hangs together. You click the button. The other thing to bear in mind is that in Salesforce, when you create a campaign, it does it almost sort of instantaneously. So when you say you've got a report, let's say, and you've got a list of contacts on the report, and you say add to campaign, it does it like pretty much there and then. Because Salesforce and Pardot are actually, they're Salesforce products, they're not based on exactly the same platform. When you hit that add to Pardot list, it's pushing that data across into Pardot, and it takes a while for it to do it. So it's always a good idea to give yourself a few hours. Don't be dependent upon having the list created in Pardot in half an hour, because it won't necessarily do it. It depends on the size of the list, but typically if you've got a list of say 1,000, if you allow yourself an hour, it should be enough. But it's always good policy to give yourself a little bit of time when you're doing that thing. Okay, so I think I'm just about finished. So I'm going to post this, and then you guys can see it.